Gentlemen, if you ever wanted the International Space Station to know you were shooting a gun, well then this thing from PTR would be the perfect choice for you. And it's exactly what we're going over today on Administrative Results. So let's dive on in. Guys, it's a pistol. Remember that. It's been a while since I found you. It's like riding a bike. Well, gentlemen, I like to think I'm a bit of an expert when it comes to wearing a balaclava. And that's why I have to give a big thank you to this video's sponsor, KommandoStore. KommandoStore took it upon themselves to bring to the civilian market one of the best balaclavas I have ever seen. Why is it one of the best balaclavas I've ever seen? Well, it mimics one of the best balaclavas, if not the best balaclava ever, and it is totally available for you to purchase. I'm actually really thrilled. I'm really proud of them. This is something that I hold in a high regard. I love having a good balaclava on hand for a multitude of reasons. Fighting the sun, for example, the big orange ball in the sky, trying to irradiate me with cancer, but a balaclava can help you fight it. So of course, I would encourage you to go check out KommandoStore, check out the balaclavas. As someone that has many hours inside of a balaclava, I can definitely tell you that they absolutely crushed it. And it does one thing very well. It looks freaking sick. So thank you, KommandoStore. Congratulations on absolutely crushing a balaclava design. Now let's get back to the video. So how did I find myself here making a YouTube video with this PTR weapon? Well, there's a lot of historical context. Historical context builds upon itself, and I'm going to give you the speed run of how we got here. Post-World War II, Germany is looking for a new main battle rifle, and they're shopping around. They hit up the Belgians because they want an FN-FAL. But the Belgians, remember not too long ago, their country being invaded by a bunch of panzers, driven by some German fellows. So they weren't too keen on rearming the Germans with their own guns. So the Belgians deny the Germans the rights to the FAL, and then the Germans ended up having some of their own gun designers that were off in Spain, making the SETME come back home. Bada bing, bada boom, you get the HKG-3, arguably one of the best battle rifles of the Cold War era. It is kind of a toss-up for guys between the FN-FAL or the HKG-3. As the world progresses, so do the number of different threats that arise, and there are high-speed guys looking for a different style of armament. Bill Fleming, an American gentleman, comes up with this thing called the HK-51. The HK number designators have to do with the type of weapon and what caliber they are, 1 being the battle rifle and 5 being a submachine gun. So it was a submachine gun battle rifle. Kind of sick. So the British SAS and SBS, the Special Boat Service, were actually interested in a HK-51, so they contracted out a company. The company being FR Ordnance. They essentially worked with Bill Fleming and adopted the MC-51. There was a number of different cool variations of the MC-51, one resembling more of an MP5K, one resembling an MP5SD, which looks freaking sick. But like most battle rifle cartridges, they went the way of the dodo thanks to 5.56 and/or just not being as practical as 9mm submachine guns, I would assume, for what they were probably looking to do with them. So we fast forward and we get to PTR Industries, Precision Target Rifle Industries, funny enough. Now, PTR, the quick historical context for that, JLD Enterprises, founded in Connecticut in 1997, founded by Jose Luis Diaz. Hey, don't cry in front of Mexicans.
I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry about that.
He purchased prints and tooling from the Portuguese and then ended up making a bunch of PTR 91s. These originally were 1994 assault weapons ban compliant rifles. Once the ban was lifted, it opened up the door for them to make way more styles of guns, and that's how we get to today. Now they also relocated to South Carolina, and they have a lot more machines in-house to make pretty much whatever they want, I would assume.
Machines!
Okay, so that was a lot of historical context yapping. I say what I want to do is, with this 8.5-inch barrel, I want to do some grouping, and I want to do some chronograph reading compared to my HK91. So we'll take a quick shooting break and do that. All right, so we're just using some M80 ball because I'll explain later. And we'll start off with this PDWR, an 8.5-inch 308 flashbang with the not optimal shooting position because the gun and my positioning in general. Okay, top left. Yeah, this Mepro light optic is also one of the red dots of all time. It's God's biggest dot. Okay, So for our chronograph reading, we have a minimum FPS of 2091.7, max FPS of 2177.6, the average being 2144 feet per second. Now, with a M80 ball ammo. Let's do the HK91. We do a little acquisition of magnifiers.
It's called we do a little trolling.
Give your boy a little bit of an edge. Oof, exquisite. Okay, so feet per second, now with doing M80 ball out of the 18-inch barrel, looking at 2701, last shot being 2668, and I of course was an idiot and did not reset anything, so that of course skews my averages. Why am I like this, and why do I always do this to myself? You truly don't ever change. No, you can change. You can change for the better. I'm gonna lock this one away for a mental note to improve. Cool, let's go check out the results. The administrative results. Oh, that's bright. Okay. Well, you know, the PDWR did not do as bad as I thought it was gonna do. So we're at roughly 60 yards for context. With this kind of shooting, I am usually the weakest linked. I am very hella mid. Looks like we have one off target, and then I believe this one belongs to that group. And this is the HK91. This is the PDWR. So now we're looking at our grouping. A lot tighter of stacks on the HK91. Got some tight groupings touching. Well, there you go. Now, one thing I like to do here at the channel is dive into pop culture references for a firearm that we are going over on the channel. The PTR 91 or the PWR from PTR, I didn't research it in that sense. What I did is just researched on IMFDB the HK51. Because pretty much the PWR is supposed to be like an HK51, right? So that is how I approached it. Now, there was a number of movies where the HK51 pops in. I think most notably that I would recognize would probably be the new Bumblebee Transformers movie, and it's being used by John Cena. I'm even surprised that they were able to pick up on him using it, given how hard it is to see him. For TV, I think the most notable was The Walking Dead. Season 4, used by Bull Randleman, the guy from Band of Brothers that somehow found himself in The Walking Dead. Also, I believe Joe Toy, the guy that plays Joe Toy in Band of Brothers, is also in that season. I might be missing some other stuff. And some notable video games, one of which being Battlefield Hardline. Now, Battlefield Hardline, the criminal enforcer class gets to use the HK51, which I actually, looking back, I forget Battlefield Hardline exists, and then looking at all the guns they have in the game, it actually kind of reinvigorates some excitement that makes me want to go check that game out again, especially that it has to do with cops and robbers. I think it's just cool. And the H-cars in that video game, which is pretty cool. You don't really see it too often. The last video game I could think of would be Squad, but I am a poser if I said that I played Squad a lot. I don't, more of a hell let loose guy. So that's a quick little dive into the pop culture references. Now, how did I acquire the PWR? Well, PTR sent it to me, no strings attached. There was no exchange of money. I'm not charging them whatsoever to make this video. They just gave me a gun for free. There's a few ways to go about this where people seem to get upset over. You either buy a gun and people think that you're trying to confirm your biases because you bought a gun, or you get a gun for free and people think you're trying to be nice to the gun so you can get more free guns. It is not lost on me that companies will send influencers or dancing monkeys on the internet free stuff in hopes to get eyes on their product. All that is said, it does help out the channel when I don't have to pay for stuff. For obvious reasons, it makes a lot of this way easier to run a business, so that does help. I bought my own ammo for this using M80 ball. I was trying to use AAC 168 grain inside of this short gun, but it would not cycle. It turned into a bolt action. I had to manually cycle every round. So that's the full disclaimer for everything involved. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. So all that to be said, I do think G3 style battle rifles are cool. Clearly you saw me make an HK91 video, of which I bought that gun myself. So I was a little excited to check out a much shorter mean variant of it. The 8.5 inch barrel with a 308 is absolutely wild, and I was very down to clown about with it. So that's exactly what spawned the video you're watching right now. Getting into more of the meat of the gun, how we have it set up is very simply, it's in the pistol configuration, thank you ATF. We have an SBA 3 stock on there. Well, we have an SBA 3 brace, I should say. Some habits die hard. Then we have the Optics Planet Modification MetPro Light dot on here. Big thank you to Optics Planet. They actually sent this over for free, and they are the optics sponsor of both administrative results and managerial outcomes. Then I got the integrated white light on the forend up here. Originally, when I got this gun in, got the whole transfer going, it didn't have the AR buffer tube on the rear, and we did not have my integrated light up here. I threw this on after. It did come with an M-LOK rail. Now, to be honest, I was jonesing to throw on the MP5 style integrated weapon light forend. I forget the nomenclature for these. There's a specific number designator for them. I just call them the integrated weapon light handguard, and I was beyond thrilled that it would fit and I could throw it on here because I love the look of these. These are probably my favorite look of a forend on any weapon. To me, it's just peak cool, baby. I'm all about it. This setup is my attempt to make it as practical as possible. The gun's typically referred to as kind of a meme. I was watching a lot of other guys talking about their short setups, Hop being one of them. I am a big Hop channel enjoyer, along with Brass Facts, of course. They're kind of like, you can't mention one without the other. Anyway, so I was watching his thing, and I kind of had the same takeaways that he did after shooting this for a bit. It's not that practical, but it is fun. The impracticality comes in when you really start thinking about it. Now, it's still lethal. It's still a weapon that you can use to defend yourself with, but for what it is, I don't think it's the best option. Bear with me. I know that you can have guns for fun, and I'm all about it, and this is absolutely a pretty fun gun to run around and shoot with. But yet again, for practicality, not all there. Ammo's expensive, mags are cheap, which is nice. The gun would be very concussive to use indoors, say if it was a self-defense gun, as well as you're sending a massive slug very fast in relative terms out of a barrel. You do lose a lot of feet per second when you drop down like 10 inches compared to the 18 inch. Now you're down to 8.5 inch, you're gonna lose a lot of feet per second. So it's sitting around that, what, 20 to 100 mark for where it was at when we were shooting, even getting as low as 2090, I believe. So the feet per second has a big dip. Now you're still sitting a slug that's pretty large, 147 grains, very fast, downrange in all relative terms, but not as fast, of course, as it could be. It's an interesting thought process that they had back in the day if you're looking at, say, the M51C SD, where maybe they were thinking, hey, we could throw a big can on this thing, run it like the SD, and then we could have maybe 308 subsonic loads. Well, that whole idea kind of gets the way of the dodoed when 300 Blackout, of course, now exists. 300 Blackout, still a 30 cal projectile. You can use AR mags, and it's just a lot more modern and modular, like this MCX. So of course, we're gonna be going over this in the future, but I mean, this is, monolithic top rail. You don't have as violent of a setup as that roller delay blowback, and it's pretty freaking quiet, and the bullets are smaller while still being a 30 cal. That's no ear pro. I'm actually really excited to go over this in a future video. I'm just having too much fun shooting it right now. The operating system, being the roller delay blowback, is very reliable in these guns. I mean, these things will just cycle and cycle and cycle. You are missing a lot of the modern features on this gun. I will harp on the fire control group in this thing, that being the trigger and the safety. I do not feel good on this particular gun, and I have not enjoyed it the entire time using it. It does not feel as high quality as my HK91 as far as the safety switch goes. Trigger, of course, it's just a common complaint. It's nothing unique to this gun. It's just that 9 to 10 pound trigger. I'm not a big fan of it. I'm aware of the mag pool fire control groups, or the housing exists, and you can get that, as well as updated triggers. Now, I do want to give a shout out to a pen pal on Instagram, that being Bruiserindustries. His HK G3K lives rent-free in my head. It's all tricked out, RAL 8000, 12.5 inch barrel. It's first stock. It just looks beautiful. And that one lives rent-free in my head. If I was gonna approach this, coming back to, say, tricking out another G3 style weapons platform, I would probably go with the 12.5 G3K, and I would rock that and rock its wheels off. Also, the RAL 8000 just looks so good. Even dumping down 4 more inches, getting to the 8.5, it's just, man, 8.5 inches. There's a lot of jokes to be made when we're talking about length here. And I'm gonna try and avoid that because I'm an adult, I promise. Things I will give it props for: running and gunning it pretty hard today. It was very wieldy. It, of course, is very gassy with how these things operate, and it is ammo dependent. It's got very picky, and so far I've gotten the best results out of just some M80 ball. which nothing to complain about. M80 ball, I think, is some pretty good stuff, but for the most part, you would like to have more variety. So with it not running the 168 grains that I had on hand, kind of a bummer, but it is what it is.
It is what it is.
So I will say that getting away from the practicality and more into the fun side of things, I think the gun does do a really good job. Another negative I would say real quick is going to be the price tag, kind of. I can kind of get where they're coming from. Inflation happens, things cost more, American labor costs more, so it does drive the price up. I believe these are sitting around 17 Benjamins on the website, give or take, and that is an up to you thing, right? For a fun range toy, that starts to get expensive if you don't have a good built out kit yet. For practicality reasons, which I try and encourage guys to, then you know, you're essentially foregoing like an IR laser or something more important for your go-to practical kit. That being said, it's not the most expensive range toy ever. It is still pretty fun. Run around shooting it, trying to shoot it tactically and use it besides just plinking away at the range was pretty enjoyable. The concussive nature of that short 308 barrel though, you know, we're shooting outside. We weren't at the indoor range for this, probably for good reasons. Probably so I don't give my camera guy a TBI as we're filming. He probably already has plenty. Me and McCollum called this thing the Flashbang dispenser when it's in full auto configuration. Sadly, mine is just semi-automatic. But if you have a full auto sear, that of course is legal. Guys, come on. These things are host ready, which is pretty cool. All that to be said, I think the overview, of course, I wouldn't call this a hardcore review. We didn't do too much shooting. To me, it does pass a sniff test as far as a fun range toy goes. I think if you do some stuff with it, you can get it to a pretty cool setting. How it comes from the factory, I hate it. You know, it doesn't have any like sort of rated accessorized brace on it. I know you can pop 2 pins in the back, but I would like for it to come with, say, you know, an SBA 3 brace. That would be kind of nice. Maybe they were having to deal with some sort of laws from like the brace ban or something like that. Maybe they're trying to play it safe. I don't know. Maybe they're trying to get more money by selling braces. Maybe a big brace is encourage them to not, I'm just spitballing. I'm memeing right now. I'm memeing, okay? Let me just riff. One thing I do have to mention is the importance of a paddle. On the HK91, I was very much missing a paddle, having to push this button right here. With the addition of a paddle, running these things is so much better. You forget just how blessed you can be. I think if I was going to do anything to this gun, I would probably consider actually getting the telescoping wire stock like I have on my HK91, but that would require me doing a tax stamp for it. So I'm kind of on the fence. Do I want to keep this gun? Do I want to get rid of it? And maybe I had my fun with it, now I want to move on. I'm definitely not getting rid of my HK91, but this gun's in a weird little gray area. I may hold on to it for a little bit longer and see how I feel about it. It's one of those things where I wouldn't grab it as my go-to rifle if my HOA Axis Powers was invading. Yet again, I don't know why they are so aggressive, but it's better than nothing. In the grand scheme of things, it's better than not having any sort of firearm at all, but it is, of course, not the most practical one to go with off the rip. So, it's a goddamn firing squad. Can he bump fire it? Oh, you can. Well, gentlemen, I think that about actually covers everything that I wanted to talk to on this gun. Well, gentlemen, I believe that covers everything that I wanted to kind of wax over on this gun. Wasn't a hardcore in-depth review. I did not spend many hours behind it. More so, kind of taking a quick fun look at a potential fun range toy or a cool piece of the collection if you want to make it more M51C-ish. At least you have a starting point for it, which I think is fun. I will give PTR that credit. Ultimately, I'm a big advocate if you can save money wherever you can, or if you don't need stuff, I would encourage you to not put yourself into debt for it. But if you can afford things, then go buck wild. All that to be said, gentlemen, I appreciate you watching, checking out this video. I had fun shooting this thing. It is like a flashbang dispenser, very fun and concussive, and it will turn heads. I'd encourage you to go to your local indoor range and let it rip. And it will bring the boom.
Double chunk chocolate cookie.
Gentlemen, I have nothing else for you. I will catch you guys on the flip.